First contact gone wrong. The Kruvov Armada emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system, their crystalline vessels shimmering against the backdrop of distant stars. Supreme Commander Zulax stood on the bridge of the flagship, mandibles clicking in satisfaction as the holographic display showed Earth rotating peacefully, unaware of its impending doom. "Primitive world," he remarked to his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Nex. "The intelligence reports indicate basic spacefaring capabilities, nuclear weapons, but nothing that can stand against our technology." Nex's compound eyes gleamed as she reviewed the tactical analysis. The species calls themselves humans, bipedal mammals with limited regenerative abilities and short lifespans. Their military forces are divided into nation-states rather than united. "Divided and weak," Zulax said. "The perfect addition to the collective. Begin the standard conquest protocol." The Kruvov had conquered 17 worlds across 3 star systems in the past century. Their method was always the same: swift, overwhelming force against military targets, followed by precision strikes on government facilities. Most species surrendered within days when faced with the technological superiority of the collective. Earth would be no different. The first strikes hit military bases across the planet simultaneously. Orbital bombardment from the Kruvov fleet turned strategic command centers into smoldering craters. Fighter craft descended through the atmosphere, their energy weapons cutting through Earth's most advanced aircraft like they were made of paper. "Resistance is minimal," reported the tactical officer. "Human military forces are attempting to coordinate, but our jamming technology is disrupting their communications." Zulax nodded approvingly. "As expected. Proceed with Phase 2. The second wave targeted government centers: Washington, Moscow, Beijing, London, and others. Buildings collapsed under precision strikes from orbit. Power grids failed as electromagnetic pulses washed over major cities." From his command chair, Zulax watched the operation unfold with clinical detachment. The Kruvov didn't particularly enjoy violence, but they believed in the necessity of rapid subjugation. A quick conquest meant fewer casualties on both sides in the long run. Within 48 hours, most organized military resistance had been neutralized. The humans' nuclear arsenals had been disabled before they could be deployed. Their navies sat helpless in harbors or sank beneath the waves. Their air forces were grounded or destroyed. Supreme Commander Nex approached with a data tablet in her claw. "We've established control of 73% of major military installations. Civilian governments are in disarray. However, I'm noting some anomalies in the resistance patterns." Zulax's antennae twitched with mild interest. "Explain." "Some human military units didn't follow standard retreat protocols. They've gone dark, abandoning bases before our attacks, taking equipment with them, and civilian resistance is forming more quickly than our models predicted." "Interesting, but inconsequential," Zulax replied. "Establish the first occupation zones in the population centers designated Alpha through Delta. Begin processing for integration into the collective." The Kruvov landing craft descended on major cities, disgorging troops and administrative personnel. The insectoid aliens stood nearly 8 feet tall, their chitinous exoskeletons resembling a cross between mantids and ants, though with 6 limbs instead of the Earth insects variety. Their technology was centuries beyond humanity's: energy shields, gravity manipulation, and weapons that could disintegrate matter at the molecular level. Most humans who encountered the Kruvov in those first days did exactly what was expected. They surrendered, terrified by the alien presence and overwhelming force. But not all of them. In what had once been central Kansas, Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen led her remaining squadron through the underground tunnel network that had been built during the Cold War and subsequently forgotten by most, until she had discovered the old contingency plans 6 months ago and quietly began restocking them. "What's the status on communications?" she asked her tech specialist, Sergeant Rivera. Rivera looked up from his jury-rigged equipment. "Still scrambled on conventional channels, ma'am. But I've modified some old shortwave radios. They're primitive enough that the aliens don't seem to be jamming them. Good work. Any contact with other surviving units? Yes, Mom. We've confirmed contact with forces in the Appalachians, the Rockies, and what's left of the 7th Fleet. They went dark and submerged before the main attack. Chen nodded grimly. And the package? Captain Lewis stepped forward, his uniform dirty, but his eyes clear. Secure, Colonel. The prototype is intact. Dr. Patel believes she can reverse engineer some of the alien tech if we can get her samples. Then that's our first mission, Chen said, looking around at the 24 soldiers who represented what might be the last organized resistance in this part of the country. We need to understand what we're fighting. On the Kravov flagship, Zilax was reviewing the first day's occupation reports when the tactical alert sounded. Report, he demanded. The tactical officer's mandibles clicked nervously. We've lost contact with 3 security patrols in what the humans call Chicago. And there's been an attack on our landing zone in Sydney, several warriors killed. Equipment damage. Impossible, Zilax said. Their military forces were neutralized. These appear to be civilian attacks. Supreme Commander. Zilax's compound eyes narrowed. Show me. The holographic display activated, showing security footage from Sydney. A Kravov patrol moved through abandoned streets when suddenly, from multiple directions, crude projectiles flew toward them. Not bullets, but containers that burst on impact, covering the aliens in a sticky substance that rapidly hardened around their exoskeletons, immobilizing them. Humans emerged from hiding places, stripped the aliens of their weapons, and disappeared before the response team arrived. What was that substance? Zilax demanded. Nex consulted her data tablet. Analysis indicates it's a simple polymer compound, what humans call expanding foam insulation, a building material modified to harden rapidly on contact with air. They're using construction materials as weapons. Zilax couldn't keep the incredulity from his voice. Yes, Supreme Commander. And reports are coming in from multiple occupation zones. Humans are adapting everyday items into traps and ambush tools. Our warriors are encountering resistance using methods that don't appear in any military database. For the first time, Supreme Commander Zilax felt a flutter of concern in his thoracic cavity. This wasn't proceeding according to the standard conquest model. Increase security patrols. Deploy combat drones in all occupied zones. I want these resistance cells identified and eliminated within 3 cycles. Yes, Supreme Commander. But as the first day of occupation turned into the first week, the pattern of resistance didn't diminish, it grew. Small strikes against Kravov patrols evolved into coordinated attacks. Human communications, despite the collective's advanced jamming technology, somehow continued to function through a bewildering array of old technologies and improvised methods. Most concerning to Zilax were the reports that humans were already attempting to adapt Kravov technology. 3 security outposts had reported weapons missing. A scout ship had been ambushed and its crew taken. I don't understand, Zilax said, pacing the command deck. Their military forces were inferior. Their technology is primitive. How are they organizing this quickly? Nex, who had been tasked with studying human history and culture more deeply, offered her analysis. Supreme Commander, I believe we may have misunderstood a fundamental aspect of human psychology. Their historical records show an unusual pattern of adaptation during conflicts. They seem particularly adept at asymmetric warfare, fighting against technologically or numerically superior forces. Are you suggesting that these mammals could pose a genuine threat to the collective? Zilax's tone made it clear how absurd he found the notion. Not yet, Nex replied carefully. But our conquest models were based on the 17 previous species we've incorporated. Humans appear to be different. Zilax clicked his mandibles dismissively. Different or not, they will learn submission like all the others. Deploy the subjugation protocols. It seems these humans need a more forceful demonstration of collective power. But as the Kravov escalated their attacks, targeting civilian areas that harbored resistance, they discovered another miscalculation. Rather than cowering in fear, the human resistance grew more determined, more innovative, and somehow more coordinated. And unknown to the invaders, deep beneath the Kansas plains, Dr. Arya Patel had just made her first breakthrough in understanding how the aliens' energy weapons functioned. "It's not actually that complicated," she explained to Colonel Chen, pointing to the disassembled alien rifle. "Their power source is extraordinary, something like a self-sustaining plasma reaction, but the firing mechanism follows logical principles. I think we can replicate it, maybe even improve it." Chen looked skeptical. "Improve alien technology?" Dr. Patel smiled for the first time since the invasion began. "They're advanced, Colonel, but they're not creative. Look at how they've designed this. It's efficient, but inflexible. No redundancies, no adaptations for different circumstances. It's like they found one perfect solution and stopped looking for alternatives." Chen considered this. "How long until we can produce our own versions?" "With the right materials. 2 weeks, maybe less." "You have 1 week, Doctor," Chen said, turning to leave. "Because in 7 days, we're taking the fight to them." Above Earth, Supreme Commander Zulax watched the holographic display of resistance incidents with growing concern. The humans weren't merely fighting back. They were learning, adapting, evolving their tactics with every encounter. And somehow they were beginning to understand Kravoth technology far more quickly than any species the collective had previously encountered. For the first time in his long military career, Zulax felt something unfamiliar creeping into his consciousness. Doubt, the unexpected counterattack. 6 months into the occupation, Supreme Commander Zulax stood before the High Council of the Collective, his posture rigid as he delivered his report via quantum transmission. "The human resistance continues to grow despite our escalation of force," he admitted, mandibles clicking nervously. "They've adapted to our tactical patterns and developed countermeasures against our standard subjugation protocols." The 7 members of the High Council stared at him through the transmission, their compound eyes unblinking. "This is unprecedented," said the first voice of the Council. 17 worlds have fallen to the same protocols. What makes these humans different?" Zulax had been asking himself the same question for months. "They are remarkably adaptable," he said. "And they possess a trait we've not encountered before, a form of decentralized innovation. Each human group seems capable of developing unique solutions independently, then rapidly sharing and improving upon them." "Explain," demanded the second voice. "When we deploy a new weapon or tactic, we expect a period of effectiveness before the enemy adapts. With humans, this period grows shorter each time. What worked for 20 cycles now fails after 2. They're learning exponentially." The council members vibrated their antennae in the Kravoth expression of concern. "Our latest intelligence suggests they've begun to reverse engineer our technology," Zulax continued. "We've lost 14 outposts in the past 30 cycles to attacks using weapons that appear to be modified versions of our own designs." "This cannot be tolerated," said the third voice. "The collective has never failed in conquest. You will receive reinforcements, Supreme Commander. The humans must be subdued, regardless of the cost." Zulax inclined his head in acknowledgement, though privately he wondered if even reinforcements would be enough. After the transmission ended, Sub-Commander Nex approached. "The humans have attacked another supply depot," she reported. "This time with a new tactic. They've somehow created a countermeasure to our energy shields." Zulax's antennae twitched violently. "Impossible. Those shields operate on principles their science couldn't possibly understand yet." "Nevertheless," Nex said, displaying footage of a human attack squad. "They carried what appeared to be crude, hastily manufactured weapons, but when fired, they emitted a pulse that caused the Kravoth shields to flicker and fail. They're not just copying our technology, they're modifying it." For the Kravoth, this was almost incomprehensible. Their technological development followed precise, logical progressions determined by the collective's greatest minds. The idea that fragmented groups of primitives could take their advanced technology and improve upon it within months challenged everything they believed about their superiority. Meanwhile, in what had once been the New Zealand countryside, Matthew Ranji led a squad of resistance fighters through the native bush toward a Kravoth landing zone. Unlike many resistance groups that had formed from military remnants, Ranji's team consisted of civilians, farmers, engineers, and local Maori hunters who knew the land intimately. "Remember," he told his team as they prepared for the assault, "these buggers rely on their tech and their standard protocols. They expect us to behave according to their models. Don't." The team moved silently through the underbrush, approaching the alien outpost from multiple directions. Each carried weapons that would have been unrecognizable 6 months ago, hybrid creations combining human ingenuity with reverse-engineered alien technology. In position came the whispered confirmation through their comm system. Another innovation, using the aliens' own communication frequencies, but encrypted with algorithms developed by a teenager who had been a competitive gamer before the invasion. Ranji gave the signal. Simultaneously, from different positions, his team activated devices that emitted a specific electromagnetic frequency, one that Dr. Patel and her global network of scientists had discovered caused disruptions in the aliens' sensory systems. The effect was immediate. The Kravoth guards began moving erratically, their compound eyes unable to process visual information correctly, their communication systems filled with static. Before they could recover, Ranji's team struck, using modified pulse weapons that bypassed the alien shields. Within minutes, the outpost was secured, its technology and supplies appropriated for the resistance. Most importantly, they captured an intact communication node, a crucial component for the global counterattack that had been months in the planning. "Package secured," Ranji reported through the resistance network, proceeding to extraction. Around the world, similar operations were taking place with increasing frequency and success. What had begun as desperate, scattered resistance had evolved into a coordinated global movement. Scientists shared breakthroughs across improvised communication networks. Military strategists developed new tactics based on observed Kravoth weaknesses. Ordinary citizens contributed in countless ways, from manufacturing components to setting up supply lines. On the Kravoth flagship, Zalax received the latest losses with growing alarm. "How did we miss this?" he demanded of his analysts. "How did we so completely misunderstand this species?" Nex, who had immersed herself in human historical and cultural records, offered her assessment. "I believe our fundamental error was assuming they would respond like other conquered species, with centralized decision-making and standardized responses. Humans evolved differently. Their history is full of smaller groups prevailing against larger forces through adaptation and unconventional tactics." She displayed historical images: ancient Greeks defeating the Persian Empire, Vietnamese guerrillas outlasting superpowers, resistance movements during Earth's various world wars. "More concerning," she continued, "is their collective problem-solving ability. No other species we've encountered shares information so readily across different groups. They have no central authority coordinating their resistance, yet somehow they function as a cohesive force through what they call networking." Zalax contemplated this disturbing analysis when the tactical alert blared. "Multiple energy signatures detected," reported the tactical officer. "Approach vectors suggest coordinated attack pattern." The holographic display activated, showing dozens, then hundreds, of small craft rising from Earth's surface. They weren't human military vehicles, but a bizarre assortment of modified civilian aircraft, each retrofitted with Kravoth technology. "Impossible," Zalax whispered. The swarm of craft approached with surprising speed, using evasive patterns that confounded the Kravoth targeting systems. When the flagship's weapons finally locked on and fired, the humans deployed countermeasures that dispersed the energy beams. "They've adapted our shield technology," Nex observed, her voice containing an emotion rare among the Kravoth: awe. The human craft swarmed around the larger Krovoth vessels, targeting specific systems with precision strikes. They weren't trying to destroy the alien ships outright, an impossible task with their limited firepower, but instead focused on weapons systems, engines, and communication arrays. It was a strategy no Krovoth commander would have considered, and therefore one their defenses weren't designed to counter. On Earth, Colonel Chen watched the orbital battle from a command center that had once been a natural history museum. Tactical displays showed the coordinated assault unfolding according to plan, the culmination of 6 months of global cooperation. "Status report," she demanded. "Phase 1 proceeding as planned," reported Captain Lewis. "The Krovoth fleet is dividing to counter our aerospace units. Ground forces are moving into position for Phase 2. Chen nodded. "And the broadcast. Dr. Patel is ready." Chen activated the global resistance channel. "All units, commence Phase 2. Across the planet, hidden human forces emerged simultaneously, targeting the now isolated Krovoth ground units. Unlike the desperate skirmishes of the early resistance, these were coordinated attacks using weapons and tactics specifically designed to counter alien technology. In urban areas, Krovoth patrols found themselves ambushed by civilians using modified energy weapons. In command centers, alien communication suddenly failed as human-designed viruses infiltrated their networks. Supply depots were captured intact rather than destroyed, providing the resistance with more resources. On the flagship, Zilax watched in disbelief as his carefully constructed occupation collapsed in a matter of hours. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "They were primitive, divided. We destroyed their military capabilities. We destroyed their conventional capabilities," Nex corrected. "We forced them to become unconventional." A communication alert sounded, but not on the Krovoth frequency. Somehow, the humans had gained access to the flagship's communication system. "This is Dr. Ariapodel of Earth," came a calm, clear voice. "To the Krovoth Collective. We have disabled your fleet's primary weapons and propulsion systems. Your ground forces are being neutralized as I speak." Zilax stared at the communication display in shock. "How dare you?" "Please listen carefully," Dr. Patel continued, unperturbed by his reaction. "We could have destroyed your vessels, but we chose not to. Unlike the Krovoth, humans don't believe conquest is necessary for advancement." The display split to show feeds from around the planet. Krovoth soldiers being captured rather than killed, injured aliens receiving medical treatment from human doctors. "We're offering terms," Dr. Patel said. "Withdrawal of all Krovoth forces from Earth, a formal recognition of human sovereignty, and an exchange of knowledge, peaceful knowledge, between our species. The collective does not negotiate with conquered species," Zilax responded automatically, though even he could hear the hollowness in his words. "You haven't conquered us," came a new voice as Colonel Chen stepped into view beside Dr. Patel. "And you won't, but we're offering you something better than conquest, collaboration. You've seen what humans can accomplish in just 6 months when threatened. Imagine what we could accomplish together in peace." Zilax looked to Nex, who had become the flagship's expert on human behavior. "Is this genuine?" he asked privately. "Or a deception?" "I believe it's genuine," Nex replied. "It aligns with patterns in their historical records. Humans often extend cooperation even after conflict. It's not logical by our standards, but appears to be a core aspect of their social structure." Zilax turned back to the communication display. For the first time, in the collective's long history of expansion, a supreme commander faced a choice other than victory or defeat. "I will convey your proposal to the High Council," he said finally. "We'll await their response," Dr. Patel replied. "But be aware, if the collective chooses to continue hostilities, Earth is now prepared. We've only shown you a fraction of what we've developed." After the communication ended, Zilax turned to the tactical display, observing the state of his once invincible armada. Ships disabled but not destroyed. Ground forces captured rather than eliminated. The humans had demonstrated not only the ability to defeat the Kravov, but the restraint to offer peace from a position of strength. "Prepare a full report for the High Council," he ordered next. "Include your analysis of human adaptive capabilities and social structures, and add your recommendation that the Council seriously consider their offer." Nex's antennae twitched in surprise. "My recommendation, Supreme Commander." Zilax's compound eyes fixed on the blue-green planet below. "Yes, because I suspect the humans are right. There is more to gain in collaboration than conquest. We believed ourselves superior because of our technology and uniformity, but their diversity and adaptability have proven to be strengths we never considered." He turned away from the viewport. The galaxy feared nothing until humanity responded. Perhaps it's time the collective learned a new approach.